Welcome to the Paddle Like a Girl podcast. Welcome. Today we have Anne. Anne is a teacher, photographer, an outdoor enthusiast, a fly and ice fisher woman, and most likely your favorite content creator. If she isn't already, she will be after today. Welcome, Anne. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Wow, thank you so much for having me. Yeah,
It's
I'm
funny. I'm
excited.
like nervous. I'm nervous. Why am I nervous?
Why, you know what? Like, and then now you make me nervous because I was like,
I
no, this
know. I'm
is
like, why
fine.
do I? What's
This is
happening?
okay.
Uh,
And now I'm
I
like, why
know.
is she nervous? Do I need to be nervous? Don't be
No, you don't.
nervous.
You absolutely don't need to be nervous. It's so funny. I've been following you for a long time. We met through Instagram, through social media. I remember discovering you. I think I was like lying in bed scrolling my Instagram feed, and I came across you. I feel like maybe it was an Ontario Parks thing. I don't remember what it was, but I saw you, and I'm like, oh my God, who is this person? I need to immediately follow and somehow slide into her DMs and not very awkwardly invite her to be my outdoor camping friend. So obviously, when I saw your content, I was just like, wow, like this is another Black woman in the outdoors. Like, how cool. So I was obviously curious, how long have you been into the outdoors and camping and doing the things that you're doing?
Yeah, that's a really solid question. Like, if we're looking for benchmarks here, I don't, it kind of varies because my time in the outdoors has really evolved, I guess, so to speak. So I think it all started off with hiking, and I think that was back in like in early 2000s. And hiking was used for my, I guess you can call it recovery for powerlifting. So I've been powerlifting for, God, almost a decade, and hiking was the only thing that I could do that was like low impact, kept me moving. And then from hiking, it moved into mountain biking, and actually, I think it was the other way around, mountain biking for hiking. But yeah, they kind of like led themselves hand in hand there, and yeah, the rest is kind of history. So it's been a journey. It's been an evolving journey. It's still an evolving journey. So yeah.
Well, I mean, you powerlifting, which is super cool, and so that was like kind of your low impact recovery. But how did it transition? Because hiking is one thing,
Yep.
but then to transition from hiking to like actually camping now, how did you kind of transition from that?
Yeah, so Jeff, my husband, was not into any of this at first. And so I remember there was one hike that we did in Hamilton, and he goes, you know, it'd be really cool if like we were able to stay out here for like days. And I was like, you mean camping? So, I'm like, so you wanna stay out here? Like what, like nighttime? Like honestly, I mean, at that point, I'd only been camping once before. Our grade six teacher took us on a class trip, and that was a totally different experience. And I was like, sure, I guess. And so he kind of like led that. And so one thing led to another. We ended up getting like a backpacking tent and like all this stuff. And next thing you know, we were camping. And that first trip was the absolute worst trip of my life. Still gives me PTSD. It was awful, but you know, we tried again and again and again, and yeah, so you kind of like pick up elements as you move along. You're like, okay, yeah, it's really cool to be out here on this hike. What would it be like to be out here for 24 hours, right? Which
Hmm.
leads into the camping. And then you pick up other things like, oh yeah, you know, like what it would be like to go on like a fishing trip and actually just doing this as the
Hmm.
activity. And so yeah, you just sort of pick up all of the things that you kind of like are curious about or interested in, and you
Hmm.
kind of just sort of roll with it. At the end of the day, there's really no wrong or right way, is what I've learned. There really
Absolutely.
isn't, right? So yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm glad your first terrible experience didn't scare you off and that you kept trying and going again and just kind of, evolving and learning from your experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you didn't grow up camping, so you got into it more like as an adult. What does is your family outdoorsy? What do they think about your adventures?
All right, coming from one Jamaican to another,
Yeah.
right? Um, yeah, so when I brought this whole lifestyle, this whole world to my parents, they were like, "You going go leave your warm bed to sleep on ground?" And it's like, yes, I am leaving my house, my warm bed, to go sleep on the ground. And it's like, honestly, to this day, I still get a little bit of the comments, but they know,
Hmm.
they're like, this is what she does, this is what she loves. And
Hmm.
yeah, so I- it's funny. And now they just sort of assume, they think every weekend I am camping. Like, doesn't matter rain, shine. It's they ask,
Right.
you camping? And I'm like, no, mom, I'm home this weekend, or I'm, doing this. So it's kind of cool because I've kind of opened up their eyes to,
Hmm.
a lifestyle, or the other side of living, maybe, so to speak, that they
Hmm.
could be a part of. And so it's nice. And I send them WhatsApp photos and so on, and then they share it abroad. So everyone thinks I'm the crazy
Aw.
one, but
Right.
in the same breath, they're actually like, "Wow, we're really proud of her." I'm like, "Cool, thanks.
That's so
That's
funny.
awesome." Yeah, they come around eventually, right? Like they come around. It's like same with my tattoos. My mom was like, "What the hell?" And now she's like, "Oh my God, pose so I can see your tattoos." I'm like, "This is not what I thought this was gonna be."
That's
So,
so funny.
yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. That's sweet that they've kind of come around. So would they would they ever try to actually go camping with you, or they just want to watch through your pictures and videos?
I think I think it would not be camping. I think it would be, they'd love to do more day tripping.
Hmm.
Whatever that might look like. Uh my dad, I've tried with him several times. I'm trying so hard to get him to go ice fishing, but he
Hmm.
can't get over that whole, like, being on ice
Yeah,
and not
fair.
falling through, which is a legit fear for, I think, me still.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I try. Let's leave it at that. I try really, really hard. And I'm hoping one day, even if it means like we rent a cabin or a yurt or
Yeah.
something, just to get them comfortable, right, with being in that space.
Yeah. You have to do it kind of gradually. Baby steps.
Baby
Baby
steps,
steps.
always baby steps.
I have this like dream of doing like a big family reunion,
Mm,
like on my dad's side, because my dad's side of the family is really big. We have lots of cousins, and like a lot of them do like to camp.
yep.
And so I have this like dream, like our family reunion. We'll just rent like a group site at a campground, and we'll
Yeah.
get everyone there. It's a really big space, and but I just know my dad, like that's the problem. Everyone else would do it, but I'm
Yep.
just like, okay, but we got to find a cabin that's close by, or like a
Yes.
bed that's
Yes, like,
close
there
by.
needs to be some sort of facility, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, to wash our hands, or something. And, they laugh at the fact that when I camp and I bring my, like, luxury items,
Hmm.
whatever that might be, and they're just like, "Really?" Or if, like, I bring my bucket to go to the bathroom in when I'm ice fishing, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like, don't forget your bucket, right? Like, they just think it's the most ridiculous thing. But at the end of the day, like, they see that, like, this isn't a phase. This is like, I do this,
Yeah.
and
For
it's
real.
cool. So yeah, I hope that for you, Tori. I hope for that family reunion to happen. It's got to happen at
Thank
some
you.
point.
I
Yeah, yeah.
appreciate that.
Let's
Thank
throw
you.
that in the universe.
Oh my goodness. So speaking of ice fishing, how long have you, I know it's at least in the last couple years that you've been really getting into ice fishing. How long have you been ice fishing?
Oh gosh. I think this is my sixth season, I
Six.
think.
Okay.
Um, but I would say my first two seasons were just like, okay, let's go back to season one. Season one was just, I would fall asleep in the hut. Like, we didn't own our own gear. I've got a photo where, like, I'm literally passed out on the bench in the rental hut. And I was like, man, like, I hate this. Like, what is this? This is ridiculous. Like, you sit out, you just sit and you wait. Like, what kind of adventure is this? And year two got a little bit better. I think it was like year three where Jeff and I were like, okay, like, we're spending a lot of money on rentals, and
Hmm.
we could probably put this money aside and buy some used gear, buy gear that's on sale, and get out there. And so, yeah, so I think the last, I would say, 4 seasons have been really like for me in terms of just getting out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so for somebody like me who's not into ice fishing, I'm you year one still. I'm very like, why? Like, I'm so bored. Because I mean, we're also never catching anything through the ice, really. Um, so what is it? What is it about ice fishing that you love so much?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so when it comes down to it, I'm thinking like, what else would I be doing if I wasn't outside? So it
Hmm.
allows me like a full day of being outside from like the prep, like we're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes earlier, depending on what lake we're headed to. And then just the whole process, like you're walking out on the ice as it's dark and you're watching the sun rise. It's just like the coolest thing from that perspective. I love the chase of like, finding a new spot,
Hmm.
and just kind of like thinking outside of the box. And then at the end of the day, yes, catching fish is a ton of fun. But it creates an environment for me, anyways, where like I'm in either a hut or I'm fishing outside, and it's just kind of like low level. Like I have a moment to
Hmm.
think. I don't know if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
find with fishing, there's a lot of chaos that can sometimes happen, which is like a lot of fun. But I think it also gives me a moment to just sort of like slow down, right? Like I need to like drill a hole, right? Figure out
Hmm.
what bait, see what's down there, see if there's any marks. Like the process is just different. Um,
Hmm.
but in the same breath, again, like it can be chaotic when the bite is hot. Like there's a lot of opportunities to kind of like see fish. So we bought a underwater camera, and that opened up a whole new door. Like even when we were fishing in like rental huts, being able to see like what your bait or your lure is doing and what
Right.
how the fish are reacting really opens up a different space. And yeah, that for me is so much fun because like, sometimes I'm playing games with these little tiny fish. I'm like, "Oh, they
Hmm.
like this," and whatever it might be. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of things, but I think the biggest thing is just being able to get outside for like an extended period of time throughout the winter, which most
Hmm.
people like to sort of like hunker down, right? And it's cozy
Right.
season, and that it is. But for me, it just gives me an opportunity to just extend what I do throughout the summer and the fall,
Right.
spring, whatever it might be. Yeah, the cold
Yeah.
weather.
It's a way to enjoy the winter for you,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
great. Because I mean, yeah, it's unless you're into snowshoeing or skiing or snowboarding, things like that, it's like, which those again take, a lot of time investment and like financial investment as well. So that's great. And something that you and Jeff can do together. Um, is Jeff as into it as you are? Does he take a bit of arm twisting or?
So, do you mean in fishing or do you mean
I
like,
would say specifically ice fishing,
okay,
but
yeah,
in general also.
yeah, okay. So, okay. At first, when it came to just like getting outside and like hiking, he was like, "No, I don't want to do this. Like, this is not." But then eventually, like that shifted, and then he got into the ice fishing, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. Right? It was me. I didn't. He's like, I just want to take you out one time. Like, fine. And then now, like, we are both diehards. Like, so he's pulled me into it. I kind of feel like sometimes I've taken over it a little bit
Okay.
sometimes. Um, but at the end of the day, like our Valentine's Day gifts is like new lures and bait and like a new ride
That's great.
or whatever it might be. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been a really cool thing for us to experience together. Because like for me, I never grew up with it. He never grew up with it. So we're both kind of
Hmm.
experiencing like these things together, and it's been cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I
Yeah.
like that you're into it. You're not like, let's just go out and drill a hole and like drop a line. You're like, you're doing the research, you're getting the gear that you need, you're understanding, like you said, how your lure is moving in the water and what's attracting the fish and whatever it is. So I can respect that you're actually like consciously trying to learn the skill of ice fishing. You're not just out there to like sit in a hut and chat all day. You're like, you want to learn and you want to catch fish, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, with that being said, the downtime also opens up a whole other avenue for me as well. Um, so,
So I've seen a little bit
yeah, yeah.
on social media. You got a lot of
Yeah.
time to be creative in that
There
hut.
is, and I think that's why I come home exhausted because like I'm like, okay, so if we're not catching fish right now, like this is my opportunity to kind of like open up that door to like other things and which has been fun. So, yeah.
Well, okay, so I mean, while we're kind of talking about it, for those who already follow you, they obviously probably think you're hilarious. Your content is very relatable. And I like to say you do skits. You like do little short skits. And they're all relatable. Like you're kind of taking a real situation and you're turning it into like maybe it's exaggerated or not into a little relatable piece of content for folks to kind of engage with. So what is your inspiration behind your skits and are they like on the fly? Are they pre-planned? How do you go about all that?
Oh my gosh, this is such a layered question. Wow, great one. Honestly, a lot of it comes from like how I view other creators. So, in this like niche of the outdoor space, I feel like there's kind of like two sides to it, right? You've got a group of people who are awesome at what they do and like they show that constantly and like that gives me a lot of inspiration to keep going, right? To keep doing
Mhm.
these cool things. But then there's this other side that I feel like is not often explored enough and it's like can I swear? But
Yes.
but it's all the shitty stuff, right? Like it's like no, it is not
Mhm.
always like this. And like for me, the most enjoyable parts of it are sometimes the hiccups that come along with it. And
Mhm.
so I kind of like pick up on like the weird things that sort of happen. And I want to bring life to that because I think at some point, because I'm still going through it, like the best of the best, they've gone through it too. And sometimes we skip over that because we didn't follow them from the start, right? We didn't see
Right.
that journey from the beginning. And for me, like, I really want to keep that in the forefront because a lot of what I put out is to encourage people to get outside, right? To just
Right.
do the damn thing. So for me, I think it's important to highlight that. And I think it's just hilarious. If I'm laughing at it, I don't care. I'm gonna put it out. If
Yeah.
it makes me laugh, I'm gonna put it out. If it makes other people laugh, fantastic. But at the end of the
Mhm.
day, like, yeah, I do this for fun. I
Yeah.
do this to kind of show the other side of it because I think sometimes we often forget that we are continually growing and we're continually learning in this space, and that's cool. Like that's really cool, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I definitely love a lot of the comics that are out there on the interwebs from different genres and different niches, and I definitely pull
Yeah.
from them and they inspire me too. So, yeah, if I see a funny video, I'm like, that is hilarious, and I can totally relate that to my own experiences. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you've kind of created like your own niche because you're an outdoor content creator, like you're creating content about your outdoor adventures. And it's not usually you don't find a lot of people who are like comedy channels, I guess, because like I would
Yeah.
say you're basically like an outdoor comedian. It's kind of your niche, right? Like you just
I'll
find the
take it.
humor in like in ice fishing. Like you're just somehow making sitting in a hut hilarious and but also relatable. So I just feel like you've got your own little niche, which is really really cool.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's a great way to connect with people. Like I was talking to the Wimpy Camper, Michelle from the Wimpy
Hmm.
Camper, and she's very similar as far as like trying to be very transparent about her learning journey in the outdoors and in bushcraft and I would say I'm similar as well, as far as like just trying to like find the humor in things, and like trying to share when things don't go perfect, because
Yes.
it
Yeah.
can be very intimidating seeing everybody's perfect online, content, and you're like, "Oh, I'll never get there." So like to share your journey and like be able to laugh at yourself too, it makes it feel much more attainable, I guess, for
I like
folks.
how you worded that in terms of attainable, because what I see and when I first started, what I saw, I should say, when I first started, was picture perfect in my eyes, anyways, right? Because
Mhm.
I'm like, wow, look, like even when I first started following you, I was like, oh my god, this girl's like, she's a badass, like she does all this stuff. But then also hearing that, like, you're also on a journey and you are also like putting things into your toolbox and learning, and it's almost like, wow, yeah, like this is okay, it's okay, right? I think we sometimes fail to see that, like, the picture perfect stuff isn't always picture perfect. There's a story that
Mhm.
comes behind it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, I can only be myself. That's all I can pour into and that's all I can put out. So it's kind of like this is it. What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
That's it,
Yeah.
right? And
And
so
I can attest to that for with you. Like, we did meet over Instagram. Like, I don't know how we turned it into real life, but it's amazing. But like, you are just like, you are what you see on social media. Like, there's no um like facade about it. Like, you're just a genuine, kind, smiley, bubbly, supportive person, and so I feel like I I have the insight into that,
thank you.
as far as who you are behind the scenes. So if anybody's ever wondering, is Anne really? It's Anne calling. It really is. It's Anne calling. That's Anne. So I appreciate you. Oh boy, hold on. A little cough break. Somehow we even caught each other's cold, even though
I
we haven't seen
know.
each
How
other.
did that
Maybe
happen?
we
Oh
got
my
it at the
god.
Adventure Expo, actually. We did see each other at the Adventure Expo, and then I literally got sick the next day. And then, like,
Oh my
I think
god.
you started getting sick later that week.
Yeah, I'm like, who did I get it from? Who was it? Who?
I don't know.
It was someone that we
Don't,
both were in contact with.
yeah. I mean, probably thousands of people at that expo. My goodness. It's hard to pinpoint.
Yeah, but I was only there for like not even like a quarter of the day, and
It's
so I
just
feel like
enough. It's all
I
you
was, it
needed.
was yeah.
It's all you needed. It's a
I
quarter of the
know. I was
day.
like, what the hell is this? I know. Jeff was very concerned about that. He's like, I don't know who's gonna be getting sick here. And I was like, oh no, don't say that. And it was me. So
And
yeah.
it was you.
Mm.
Has he got it yet?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Okay, well, good for him.
I
Good for
know. I
him.
was like, you deserve an award.
Yeah, literally, it's been so bad. Oh my goodness. Um, a cool part about social media, talking about like just how we met and kind of ended up becoming friends, community is just a huge part of, I think, your presence online. You've seemed to have built a really like loyal following, and an actual community of people that you actually connect with. Have any of those friendships started online and transferred to real life?
Yeah. Yes and no. Like, it's funny. Like real life, like seeing that person in person,
Hmm.
not really. I think you're one of like my first. Um, and there have been a few others, but I think it was more so like the conversations that you're having behind the scenes, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, I don't have like my circle is pretty tight. Like I really um protect that.
Hmm.
And I protect the people that are in it. But in the same breath, I'm also like super social. So it's like it's an
Hmm.
interesting sort of balance of friendship and people that know you and you know them, which is also a really weird thing being a part of the internet space, is
Yeah.
that like people know you and you're like, oh my god, like what's their handle, like what's their name, and like and that's just, I mean, it's not that I don't value those friendships or the communication that I had with these people,
Hmm.
but it's something I never expected. I was like, wait, what? Like people, me? Like, are you
Right.
sure? But at the end of the day, I mean, I guess that kind of happens when you put yourself out there, right? Like
Totally.
it's a part of the journey, which has been pretty cool. So, yeah. Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious, do you suffer from imposter syndrome?
I will say when I first started, I did, in the sense of like, who am I to be putting out this stuff? Like, what?
Hmm.
Like, you
Right.
know? And as I've gone through this sort of like journey, I think that has gotten better. I think for me right now, I really lean into the fact of that, like, I am who I am, and that's
Hmm.
it, right? I think the more we lose the idea of what should be, we kind of forget about what could be, right? And
Hmm.
I think that at the end of the day, if you have a community, you have transparency, you have open conversations, you're open to feedback. Like
Hmm.
that's another part of it too, right? Like I know I don't have all the answers. I know I'm not an expert. I
Hmm.
do it. People think I am, but I make it clear that like, listen, like this is just like this is me. There's other people who are in this field who are experts.
Hmm.
So I think the more I stay true to those things, you lose the idea of this whole imposter. You lose that whole sort of like curtain that you feel like you
Hmm.
sometimes stand behind, and yeah, and that's I. It's tough because coming from like my athletic world of
Hmm.
powerlifting and competing, I think that really kind of like set a really cool foundation for me because like if I fail a lift or if I, mess up, like it is what it is. There's no like in between. It is what
Hmm.
it is, right? And so I think I've really come to learn to accept that like I'm not an expert, but I like to try to be funny, right? Like I can try that, and that I think
Right.
I'm all
Right.
right at that. So yeah,
I'd
I
say
think
so.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's great. I do feel like I really admire your confidence, even just like in hanging out with you and like your ability to just be exactly who you are in front of the camera is really admirable because I definitely suffer from imposter syndrome. And so getting in front of the camera and like talking about things that I feel like I'm not enough of an expert in to talk, like to be sharing with people or teaching people is always uncomfortable. And so I admire your ability to just be like honest and open and like make it fun and just be exactly who you are. So
Well,
thank you
thank
for that.
you. No, thank you for that because I think we need to be more open about that, right?
Hmm.
Like that. Hey, we it's okay.
Yeah,
Like it's
exactly.
okay, right?
Yeah,
So
for
yeah,
sure.
thanks for that.
For sure. Yeah, no problem. I
Yeah.
was thinking about this before we hopped on the call. You are inspiring to people for a few different reasons. Okay, um, you're a black woman in the outdoors. You're
I'm
camping.
black.
You're
No, just
canoeing.
joking.
You are getting into fishing. Not getting into fishing. You're like honing the craft of fishing. So you're fly fishing. You're ice fishing. You're just classic. What spinner
Spin
fishing? What
cast.
what is that
Yeah,
called?
yeah, spin cast
Yeah,
fish.
Kaz. Clearly, I need to learn a thing or two.
No, you
Um,
don't. You're good.
but on top of all of that, you've also been on this natural hair journey.
Oh,
I remember when I first started following you, I think you had just cut off all your hair and started
yeah.
fresh. And so there's many different reasons for people to find you inspiring. I guess my question is, how does it feel to be an inspiration to people for so many different reasons?
Whoa, that is wild, Tori. That's wild, wild, wild. How does it feel? I think you kind of go through a lot of the emotions that come with that. Because I didn't really set out to be this person. And
Right.
so for me, looking back, like, you said like the hair journey, like for me, that was something that was important for for me. It was something that I've never experienced before in all of my living. Like I didn't know what my natural hair looked like. And so cutting my hair off taught me more about not just like, okay, cool, you got curly hair, but allowed me to like sit in a space I've never been in before.
Hmm.
And so that in itself was like, okay. And I didn't know that that would change me on the inside when I started this whole adventure and this whole journey, right? It's freeing. It's cool to hear other people say like, "Wow, like you've inspired me," and I'm like, I'm still on that other end of other people
Right.
doing the same for me, right? Like just having these conversations in the DMs or whatever it might be. I'm
Hmm.
like, you're also inspiring me. Like you have to understand, like you're filling my cup, and that makes me feel freaking awesome.
Hmm.
So, as much as I feel like, or people feel like I'm in this space and I'm inspiring and so on and so forth, like it's reciprocated. Like
Hmm.
it's that give and take that sort of happens. It's that balance. It's that, fueling each other, adding more wood to the fire. Like it's
Hmm.
all of that. So it's a really cool spot to be in, and I will forever be the cheerleader. Like I think it's so cool hearing these stories that people are like, hey, I'm like, I don't think you're ever going to read this, DM,
Hmm.
but or if you have time, I'm like, oh my God, no, I have time. Like, I will respond back to you. Like, I'm not,
Right.
it's not that deep has been my kind of like trail of thought as of late. Like it's not that deep. We're all people, and I think that
Hmm.
we need more of that compassion and more of that empathy because some people might see you up here, some people might see you down here, but at the end of the
Hmm.
day, if you see yourself, you truly see yourself and accept all those things, it's cool, man. Like it changes you in such a really awesome way.
Awesome. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing answer.
Thank you.
So, what advice would you give to somebody that is looking to get into fishing?
What advice would I give? So fishing as a whole, like just
Yep, as a whole.
okay. Um, well, you're you're probably not going to catch fish. So let's lower the expectation here for a minute. Um, yeah, like do it for all of the other things. It teaches you patience. It teaches you to deal with things like loss. It teaches you about like awareness as well, like your surroundings and like being in these environments and like how cool that is. And that's the one thing that fly fishing has really brought to me this year, was being able to just sort of like slow down and observe, right? And observe the water, observe like when you're casting with a 9 foot rod and all this line, like what's around you.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I think that the catching part is definitely cool, but I think all the other things that help support that is even cooler. Catching a fish is
Hmm.
awesome because you do have to think of all these other factors that kind of come into it. Yeah,
Right.
it's a long game. It's a long game.
Right.
It's not
Enjoy the
immediate.
journey.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
And then, what advice would you give to somebody that's wanting to get into content creation?
Oh. Oh. Um do it do it for you.
Hmm.
Um do it for the fun of it, for the joy of it. Do it for the connections that you can make in your community. So whether that be your 100 or your 20 or your whatever it is, follower count does not matter. I think a lot of us are looking for content that's real, and I think there's been this sort of a shift that's been going on. I know for myself, anyways, like I really relate to people who are sharing like true and real stories, whether they be funny or not. But at the end of the day, like, come as you are, because you are more than enough. Like, and I don't think people realize that, right? Like, you don't need to be anybody else. So put
Hmm.
out things that you love and put out things that, you enjoy, because going back to create that content over and over again will be enjoyable. Like, you won't
Hmm.
go through those hard burnout stages that some creators go through, and that's real,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's a
Yeah.
real thing. And sometimes I don't want to even be near, like, my phone or these apps. But
Hmm.
if I'm having fun, I tend to kind of want to do it more.
Right.
Yeah. So really just come as you are, man. Just bring what
Yeah.
you think is important and you'll find your way. Don't stop, won't stop. Don't stop. Just keep going. Just keep going, really, because something will click. Something will
Yeah.
click and something will be relatable to someone. There is going to be someone, and they may not tell you that. That's the other
Hmm.
part. They may not tell you that, but later on, I've had these conversations. They're like, "Do you remember this post that you put out like 2.5 years ago?" I'm like, "No, I don't." But okay, come on, and it's like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that really like made me do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, "Holy crap!" Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably was
You
like
don't
one
really
of my
realize
worst.
who you're connecting with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of my worst performing like reels or whatever it might be,
Right.
but like somebody out there will find it
Yeah.
cool, funny, hilarious, or whatever it might be. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice to know, like, if you have connected with or changed somebody's at least one person's kind of perspective, or inspired them somehow, or just like somehow connected with one person. It makes it just feel like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
that's all that really matters.
Yeah. That
So
that's
yeah.
exactly it. I'm sure like for you and your creating, like you have such a broad spectrum of things that people can relate to with you as well. And I'm sure, like, on those days where it's like, wow, I got a lot going on. Because you do, Tori, you have a lot going on. But, that just kind of gives you the feel like, hey, you know what? Like that, I was able to connect with someone that's pretty darn cool.
Hmm.
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? Just come as
Yeah.
you are and do what makes you happy, really.
Yeah.
And if they love it, they'll stick around.
Yeah. Well, actually, you just kind of made me think of something, because I do feel like I'm part of, like, you kind of think about what community you're a part of when you're like
Hmm.
making content. Am I outdoor women, outdoor moms? And then of course I have this side of, like, with Wesley, I'm following a lot of caregivers, like
Yep.
moms to children with disabilities. And so I think about you too. Like, you have kind of, like I mentioned, you're camping, you're canoeing, you're fishing, but you're also incorporating your hair journey, which isn't really related directly to the outdoors, but it's very much a part of your life and your lifestyle and your who you are and your journey. And then your powerlifting and that world as well. So I think you do just this isn't really a question, it's just more of a statement. I think that you do a really good job of just like incorporating all of it into your content and just again showing up as exactly who you are, because it's easy to be like, oh, I can't show this because this isn't part of my uh, content. Like, I'm an outdoors person. I can't show me powerlifting. I can't show me my hair journey. So I think you just do a really good job of incorporating it all because, of course, as humans, we're very layered. We have a
Yeah.
lot going on, and your social media is more about it's Anne calling and not about like Anne is outside. And so I think that you do a really good job at incorporating all of it into your content. So
Well, thank you. Thank you. I feel like my stories can sometimes be all over the place. I feel like I live there quite a bit and can show a bit more.
mhm. Yeah.
Um, which is I used to hate stories. I was like, wait, why? Right? I'm like, this is
Yeah.
actually pretty dope. Like I can talk more about all the other things too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and a lot of people have said that they've enjoyed it, and I was like, really? Because I don't know. I put it out there and I kind of leave it, right? It's just kind of
It's almost
it's
like your
there.
journal.
It
You're just
is.
like kind of talking to your journal, and then you have like, I don't know about you, but there are people's stories that I watch every day, and it's
Hmm.
probably like maybe 5 people. I don't even realize I'm doing it, but they're always at the top of my story feed. And so
Yes.
I'm sure you are that person for many people. Like, they're just like, what's Ann up to today? What's she talking about? So I'm
What
sure that you
stories?
have a good audience there. So
Well,
Actually, one of your stories the other day, I think I messaged you, because you're a teacher, which we haven't touched on at all, but you are a permanent part-time like substitute teacher by on purpose.
yeah,
You don't want to change that because it really complements your outdoor your adventures, right? Like you
yeah.
can kind of make your own schedule, which is really cool. But I guess I don't know what grade you were teaching, but you said that one of the kids asked if you were a boy or a girl, I think.
Okay, so um, through like the last, I think, 6 years, I had stopped teaching primary. I was like,
Okay.
you know what? I'm kind of done with the primary kids. Like, I love juniors and intermediates because I can roast them, like, and they don't
Okay.
cry. And so I'm like, I really, really love this. And yeah, so I picked up a job. And at this one particular school, there are two teachers with the exact same last name. And so not thinking. And so I'm like, oh, this is a grade six class, cool. I show up and I'm in Kinderville, and which is like a whole other ball game. And I was like, okay, so mind you, I'm 5'10" and a half. These chairs are like barely a foot tall. Like I'm squishing underneath these little desks and I'm getting side by side and we're working on our vowels at that time. And this awesome kid turns around and is just like, "Why do you look like that?" And I was like, "Oh, here we go, right?"
Oh
Like,
no. Oh no.
and I'm like, "Okay, we gonna play this game. We gonna play this game, right?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And just fully asked me, like, you look like a boy." I'm like, "What?" I was like, "Okay." And it's just so funny to me because I forget, right? Like I forget like the innocence of these
Yeah.
like primary kids. And homeboy really tried to flip it around, tried to invite me to his trailer with his mom and like all this stuff, but he was
Aw.
just like, you look like a boy, but he goes, "It's okay, Mrs. B. It's okay." And I was like, "Damn, okay. All right." Like I got told that day. But yeah, it's a fun world teaching, and what makes it even cooler though is that I get to share my experiences with my classroom,
Yeah.
and I call them my kids. Like everyone's like, when I say my kids, people think I have kids or like I'm a full time teacher,
Hmm.
and I'm like, no, when I'm in the classroom, like I treat them as if they are my own class.
Hmm.
And so, 4 years into teaching, I decided that, full time teaching wasn't my thing, but I can still go in the classroom and I can still be that person for these kids and let them know, like, no, like, I got you. You're with me. You're my class now. And yeah, so it's cool. So I've got this rapport where, they're walking down the hall and they're like, "Mrs. B, did you go fishing this weekend?" Like it's like this this
That's
this
awesome.
this whole sort of banter and stuff like that. So it's been cool, and I've been able to kind of share like not just fishing, but like the powerlifting and all the rest of
Hmm.
it. They know my like art side and all like so yeah, it's cool, and it's cool to kind of see this like younger generation who is starting to want to take an interest in the outdoors. They're like, "Can you take us?" I'm like, "Man, I wish I could take you guys, right?"
Hmm.
But and I give them the resources, right? Like
Yeah.
whether it's during snack time, I'm like, "You can write down this website, and this website will allow you to go fishing with Ontario parks, right?" And kind of
Hmm.
like they can bring it home and they can discuss those things with their families. It's unfortunate because within our school system, it's not that great. That it's not great where we're giving that kind of information to our young
Hmm.
ones, that you don't have to be born into it. There are opportunities to explore
Right.
outside of it. So yeah.
Yeah. You must be probably one of the favorite teachers amongst the
Yeah,
group.
well, I got some
That's what I would
I got
assume.
some I got some street cred.
Yeah. I bet. I bet you do.
I got some skin in the game. But yeah, no, it's been fun. I will say.
Yeah.
I do love my kids. I do love my students.
Good.
They're fun. Yeah.
Good. Well, the only reason I brought that question up was not because I wasn't trying to call you out or anything, but I've gone to Wesley's classroom, and on two separate occasions, I've been asked that same question from two different children. So I was when you said that story, I was just like, oh, it's not just me.
No.
But
No.
they're at an interesting age where they're like learning about all that stuff, and like so it's like.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just thought it
Yeah.
was so funny. I was like, okay, it's not it's not because
No,
I've been
it's
like,
not
I'm
just
like, I'm
you.
not going to his classroom again.
Well, that's the thing.
Just
I
kidding.
was like a little bit nervous for the rest of the day. I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, what?" Like, they give you a bit of a complex, and they
I
don't
know,
care
I
about
know.
it.
I know. It's so funny. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, that's all the questions I had for you today, but I do have, I'm doing this little thing at the end, um, rapid fire questions.
Oh
So they're
god,
just
okay.
not deep. Hopefully you don't have to think about it too hard. You can
Okay.
just give like one word answers if you want. You can
All right.
elaborate more if you want to, but
Oh,
there's just
cool.
5.
Okay.
No pressure.
Oh Lord, here we
We're not
go.
we're not gonna get you canceled or anything, I
Yeah, please
promise.
don't. I don't want
They're
that
not
for
super
me.
controversial.
I don't want that for me.
All right. So question number 1, ice fishing or fly fishing?
Oh, oh my God, Tori. Fly
The
fishing.
long
No,
sigh.
ice fishing. I can't answer that one. I can't answer that one. I can't. I gotta skip
Okay.
it. That one's really tough. That
Skip.
one's
Okay.
like that one. I feel like I'm sweating in the pits right
Okay. That's fair. That's fine.
now.
Okay. Canoeing or hiking when it
Canoeing.
comes to camping? Okay.
Canoeing
Nice.
now. Canoeing now. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. You're a
Yes.
convert.
You brought me to the dark side, Tori.
Yes.
Hmm.
Your favorite Ontario park to explore?
Ooh, that's a good one. Superior.
Nice.
Hmm.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah.
What is one piece of gear that you cannot leave home without?
One piece of gear. Like, hold on. Sorry, this is layered, and can I ask a question about
That's
this
fine.
rapid fire
You can. You may
question?
ask.
Like, do you mean like, like in general, or like for certain
So like
trips, or like?
let's say it's more of like maybe a luxury kind of piece of gear. Like something that you don't necessarily need. Like we're not
Oh,
talking like
okay.
a tent and a sleeping bag, but like
Oh,
a
okay.
nice
Okay.
thing that you're like I always want this with me.
Oh, okay. Well, if I could all the time, would be my Lugaloo, my portable toilet.
Okay. Yes, there you go. That's a perfect answer. Okay. And then when lighting a fire, are
Yes.
you pyramid or log cabin?
Ooh, log cabin.
Okay, nice. I like it. That's it. That wasn't so hard. That wasn't
It
so
was
bad.
no, listen, there's a little bit of
Except
stress
for
on
the
that
first
first
one.
question. There's a
Yeah.
lot of heat on
Yeah.
that, and I was
Sorry.
like,
Sorry
I
to do
don't
that to
know how
you.
to do this.
Oh man. Well, that's good. You like them both equally, so that's good.
I really do. They bring a lot to the table, both of them. Yes.
That's good. That's
Mhm.
good. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Did you want to share where people can find you?
Yeah, sure. So my big playground is on Instagram. That is, it's Ann Calling. It's underscore Ann, A-N-N underscore calling on Instagram and TikTok as well. And then our YouTube channel that Jeff and I both kind of contribute to is called Unplugged Adventuring. So yeah,
Awesome.
that's where you gonna find me. Yeah.
Perfect. And I'll put that in the show notes. Um, and thank you. It was really nice connecting with you again. I feel like it's been a long time,
It
and
has
I
been.
appreciate you taking the time to chat.
Well, thanks for having me, Tori. This is awesome.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.